Welcome everyone to our Movement Building from Home series of community calls. My name's Abby. I'm one of the organizers along with Chad. Chad, I'll just wave, yay. So we both work on the MozFest team, and we're really excited to give you this offering to really help with what's going on today. A lot of us are adapting to online meetings, and we want to create a space where we can learn from each other. We know a lot of you have been doing this for a long time and have done great work there. Yeah, and a lot of us are new to this. So I thought this would be a great time for us to share with each other and learn from each other. So right now, most of you should be in the notes document. So if you just joined us, please sign your name in the roll call. It's a great place to put your name, your pronouns, where you're located. It's always fun to know where people are calling in from around the world, and some social media so people have a way to contact you after this. And then answer our check-in question. There's 3 questions there. You can pick which ones you want to answer, but how are you doing today? What are you working on? What do you need from this call? That's a nice way to sort of share what you're working on so people can go and read that afterwards or even during the call. So we are using Zoom for this call. We use Zoom mostly for capacity. It is better for bigger calls we find, and also the breakout room functionality. So we will be using breakout rooms later today. So you'll get to experience how that works. And I would suggest trying out the gallery view if you want to see everyone's faces at once. So in the top right-hand corner, you can switch from speaker view to gallery view. I don't know what it's like, squares. But yeah, I'd recommend that, and you can see everyone. And these notes are also here for you. So please write in them, add +1s to things you agree on, add GIFs, comments. These are for you. Feel free to write what you want there. Take notes as we're talking. It helps us. And with that, I'll pass it on to Chad.
Many thanks. I'm going to go ahead and share with you our community participation guidelines reminder. We'll do this at the top of each call. We are here to be respectful, honest, inclusive, accommodating, appreciative, and open to learning from everyone else that's joined us here. We do not attack, demean, disrupt, harass, threaten others, or encourage any such behavior. If you have line numbers, somewhere around line 68, probably towards the bottom of page 2, you can find a link to the full Mozilla Community Participation Guidelines to review. And should something come up or you want to talk about something or report an issue, you can email Abby and or me. You can also, ping one of us or someone else in Mozilla if you feel more comfortable reporting to someone else. That reminder taken care of, we'll go back to Abby for goals for today's call.
Cool, thanks, Chad. So yeah, goals for this call first really is to check in with the community. It has been a while since we've seen each other, and it's a nice way to hold space and listen to each other. To share advice for successful online meetings, Chad and I will share a few things from our end, and we hope that you'll be sharing your own tips. And then also to understand the challenges and opportunities online meetings bring to movement building. We do want this work to continue. A lot of you are doing very important work in this space, so we want to make sure that work keeps happening even though we can't see each other face to face right now.
And to begin, we'd like just to kind of hear from you about how things are going in your online meetings or in your planning for online meetings. So we're at item 4, your community and experience. And we're going to use something that we call silent documenting. We were on Etherpad once and it was silent etherpadding. Now we're on Google, just silent documenting. This is an opportunity for everyone to kind of think and reflect and maybe just share a little bit in response to 2 prompts. What has worked well in your online meetings and what challenges have you faced? And the idea is to take about, I don't know, 5 minutes or so to go ahead and jot down some thoughts. And when you're finished, to go ahead and to +1 or to ask a couple of questions to help you unpack ideas that other folks are sharing. After 5 minutes, we'll come back together. Anyone who wants to vocalize anything or discuss something further can let us know. And I should say that if you would rather share out loud during this time, I'm happy to take notes for you as well. But I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to encourage everyone under item 4, your community experience, to share a little bit about those 2 prompts. What's worked well so far in your online meetings? And then what are the challenges you're facing in those meetings? Any questions? All right, go ahead. We'll be back in 5. and what other folks have contributed, plus one of the things that you're also experiencing in terms of successes and challenges. And maybe just, ask a question or two, pose a wonderment, and we can use those to continue the conversation together. In about 2 minutes or so, we'll come back and say out loud anything we'd like to surface more. All right, it looks like things are slowing down a little bit. There's still some plus oneing going on. But what we'll do right now is take 5 more minutes. And if you would like to ask a question out loud or share something out loud, if you would like to just draw attention to something another way through the chat or anything you'd like, go ahead. What would you like to share more or learn more about here before we go on? And I think, especially if you're in gallery view, you can just kind of take a look at the different video panes, or listen for others speaking, and just join in when there's an opening. And I'm happy to surface a few trends that I see, but others first, please.
I'm seeing a lot of trends around, like, people like agendas, people like live documenting. People are getting tired of online meetings. Oh, Chad, I can't hear you anymore.
And feel free
Oh,
to
there you
respond to those. Yeah, so in terms of successes, it looks like, kind of splitting up what different platforms are doing is a thing there, right? So not everyone's trying to, for example, take notes in the chat of a video app, which is great. Much better to have shared documentation that can live asynchronously and folks can contribute to, in addition to whatever we're using for live meetings right now. Agendas and structures, those are big. There's a great point about using some icebreakers to get used to some of these platforms that are new for folks, something that we should not overlook. Some people are commenting on the authenticity, sharing the experiences of the situation that kind of come to the fore in this new meeting format, this new space for many of us. And I like this one about people starting to mute their mics. That piece of etiquette is indeed happening more and more. In terms of challenges, getting people to participate in different contexts, just because of like numbers and newness seems to be a thing, as well as like, technological uncertainties, needing to help folks through those. That's very important. Trying to, as somebody said on this call and on the last call or typed, trying to chair and take notes can be really, really difficult. So some of the things that we know from, maybe face-to-face meetings in terms of sharing facilitation duties or splitting roles between people, it's definitely important online. In fact, you may create some new roles to deal with things like helping people in from the waiting room or handling tech issues, things like that, in addition to your usual chair, note taker kinds of divisions of labor there. Is there anything folks feel I missed or they want to bring up and definitely bookmark right now before we go on?
I know in the last call, this idea of like a coffee hour was super popular. Didn't really come up as much here. But yeah, having like that social time still, schedule it in.
Well, there's that question about how to replace the open networking part of in-person events. And so having some, deliberately social experiences outside of work experiences can help with that. I'm trying to think of some examples. Like our team has done a long-standing social time, and what are some of the prompts we've used in there? I remember we've done like Google Street Map tours to show people kind of like where the regions where we work remote within our team, give people an idea of our own landscapes.
Yeah, it's fun.
Are there
I
other things
think
people would
I
recommend?
think I
Or
saw
Abby?
like Lucy was nodding. Do you do this with your team?
Well, Christina from my team is also in this call. Yeah, we try. We have a daily check-in every day at the moment with our team remotely, which is new for us. We're normally in the office, and we do all kinds of different questions as icebreakers. So today's was, what's your favorite dinner from a can or from the deep freeze? And we've also shared the songs that are keeping us motivated and things like that. So we try to do, like several times a week, we try to do something like that. But it's not like free networking where you can meet people you've not met before. It's more about keeping the social side of a team dynamic going.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how online events, whether they'll use features like Zoom's breakout rooms more and more often to kind of try to approximate that networking. I just wonder about how that scales, especially with larger events and codes of conduct and things like that. So very curious to see what emerges there, and very excited to hear from you all about things that you find that work. Any other kind of like, while we're here, icebreaker activities or online socializing activities folks have experienced and think are good positive shares before we move on?
I can maybe mention, so we use Mentimeter for that, because I have heard, I didn't try the polling from Zoom. I heard that it's possible, but I heard a lot of people complained about it, that there were problems with it. I can't tell much, I didn't try it, but we use Mentimeter. We were always using it also before in meetings, and it does help to engage with people. And I mean, I really like using Google Docs as well. And the advantage with Mentimeter is that it looks a bit more fancy and it activates people.
Well, thank you for that share. Maybe you have time for one more before we go on, if anyone's interested.
I'd like to share this de-stressing activity.
Yeah.
Which was the one question that I had was, what noise does a pig make in your native language? And we've had like different answers. That was really a great icebreaker to start working together.
That's great. Thank you.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, super. Well, thank you so much for those shares. As you think of other things, feel free to add them to the document here. These notes will continue growing. Your calls on here, the other calls from this week will be on here if you'd like to browse those for ideas as well. We very much want this to be kind of like a community of practice.
Oh. Chad, we lost your audio. Something about a community practice, I think, is what he was saying. I don't know where your audio went, Chad. But we'll move on to the next section. And hopefully Chad will figure out his audio. But I think that's a nice segue into sharing a little bit around how we're running online meetings, and just to get you to react from that. And I think the first thing, and something we've touched on a little bit, is really choosing platforms to use. So I think for any time you're choosing a platform, really assess what your community needs are, both for privacy and security, but also for accessibility. Hey, I can hear you now, Chad. At least I hear you typing. There we go.
Continue,
Anything
please.
you want to add?
I was just trying to segue into your second one.
Cool, thanks. And just to give you some insight into why we chose Zoom for this, it is what Mozilla uses, and we do think it's good for accessibility in larger meetings. We knew that this was going to be a public call that we are recording and putting online, so if people do have privacy or security concerns, they can watch the recording and then look at the document after. If this was a really sensitive meeting, I would have chosen something more like Signal or even Jitsi, where I know that they do care a bit more about privacy and security. So there is a trade-off with every platform you use. So I'd encourage you to sort of look into these understand what your community needs before you jump into one. I will say for stability and even for people with low bandwidth, I do really like Zoom, just it makes it much easier. And it's done a good job for being enterprise, but we know it's not perfect and they've had some growing pains the past couple of weeks. So keep those things in mind as you're choosing. And so we put a few options in there, and feel free to keep adding. I think in the last call, people added so many more options I didn't even know about. Yeah, Jitsi is great for open source. It's good for smaller meetings. I think it gets harder as you pass a certain amount. Big Blue Button I've used before. And I think that, yeah, Big Blue Button's a bit better for like the webinar side, more stable than Jitsi. Good to know. Please keep adding them. For collaborative notes, we are using Google Docs here. We have run into a lot of trouble. If you're collaborating with anyone in China, it's a little bit harder. They'll need a VPN. But HackMD is great if you know Markdown. We used to use Etherpad a lot, but we ran into some security issues there. That's why we moved over to Google Docs. But if you have your own stable version of Etherpad running, that works. People have linked CryptPad and Micro, which I haven't used, but we got a lot of love for CryptPad last time. That's great. And then for chat, we are using Slack as Mozilla, but we also use Matrix and on Riot, which is a nice open source alternative, and it works really well. So I'd also recommend that. There's also Mattermost, again, open source. Gitter is nice for its link with GitHub, and Signal again for privacy. And oh yeah, Discord. Oh, and Discourse also. Both of those things. I guess Discord maybe for the video conferencing. Yeah, so keep adding your stuff there. I think that'll be helpful as people are choosing. I've never heard of Chicho Chat. Anyways, great options. So once you have the platforms, I'll explain a couple of things that we actually did on this call. So it's like explaining what we've already done, but we like to have a roll call as a check-in. It's a nice way to ask people to write in the docs, because sometimes people think the agenda is there and not for them to edit, even if they have permissions to edit, but it's like forcing people to, no, it's like not forcing, but inviting them to write their names in there. And it's a nice way to ask things like, what are your pronouns? Where are you based? And then having a check-in. We already talked about having icebreakers as a nice way to ease people into this new online meeting space. But we like to have some sort of opening question or check-in to hear from everyone, even if we can't unmute everyone and listen to you all individually. It's a nice way to sort of still get everyone to participate. And yeah, having that roll call is great for following up with those who can't attend. So that way they can put their name there. You can follow up with them after. Or if you are joining late or you couldn't make the first part of the call, you can quickly see who's there and quickly see what's happening. We like to have multiple forms of contribution. When you're in a video call, like unmuting yourself, it's really valuable time. And it's hard to get through everyone on the call. So having multiple ways where people can write in the Google Doc and it's still seen, or write in the chat. Yeah, that's why we also like that silent documenting time. We were able to hear from so many people in a relatively small amount of time. I thought that was great. And it's there for people to catch up on afterwards. And we're able to level up some patterns, which I thought was really valuable. Similar with silent documenting, I guess we didn't write this here, but having a note taker is always great, so that people can engage real time if they want to, or they can engage by note taking. There's different ways people best participate in meetings. Having a document that stands on is great for asynchronous contribution too. So if you have to move on to the next agenda item, you can still encourage people to ask questions or keep discussing in the document before, and you're not derailing the entire meeting. And it allows for people to keep discussing things after the meeting's done. So if they couldn't make the meeting, someone from a different time zone can sort of check in, add their own notes going through, tag a few people, and then they can respond there. That way you don't have to try to schedule everything when everyone is awake. Robust documenting. Yeah, so for this, we are recording the calls. We will be uploading them on YouTube. We got the auto captions from our first call already from Zoom, and it's always fun looking at the auto captions and how like little mistakes they make, but it's still helpful for accessibility. And then also summarizing on other channels. So we will be emailing you. If you registered, we'll email you the recordings afterwards. And for people that couldn't make this, if we only were running one call, we'd be sending these notes to people for people to comment on. But hopefully people can mostly join at least one of these 4 calls we're running. Yeah, and we will be using breakout rooms right after this, so you can experience that. And then for all of our calls, we make sure to have some clear call to actions, CTAs, with next steps and to-dos. I think that's pretty standard for like agended meetings, but making sure people know what they're here for and what they can do next. So that was my very quick presentation of some of the things that we do at Mozilla. We have a few minutes for Q&A if you have any questions, or maybe your own suggestions on like what we've presented. And also, Chad, feel free to weigh in if I forgot anything.
No, I think let's see if there are questions. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. So you can ask your questions either in the doc, you can type it there, or you can unmute yourself.
And these can be questions.
I have a question.
Oh, please, yes.
So with the collaborative note-taking, such as with Google Docs, I see that it looks like we all have edit access. So you've really sort of empowered us to like take ownership and make comments and notes. How well does this scale, and do you recommend maybe using suggest or comment access for some meetings, or do you always kind of encourage opening it up to kind of everybody to have that edit access?
Scaling, I think for edit access, it starts to break after about 100 people editing all at once. And yeah, it gets messy if you give people only suggest or comment access. I haven't actually done too many big meetings with that. Maybe if it's like a document, if you're collaborating on like a document that you're trying to publish, I think we've done that before a few times, Chad. Then it makes sense so that you could see everyone's changes. But if it's a meeting like this, I think I do prefer edit access. I don't know. Yeah. Chad, what are your thoughts?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I have my internet unstable message, so forgive me if I drop off. Yeah, you know, I think having open notes for meetings like this that are going to be recorded is great for building a sense of community, but also trust within that community. And in the time that we've used it, I think we've experienced very few problems with abuses of that. It also gives community a way to kind of like hold us accountable. If they believe something is missing from our agenda, we misstate something, we don't acknowledge something important to acknowledge in one of these topics. You know, it's a form of feedback as well that folks can, you know, add things that of course we're not going to have in our experience or think to include the first time around. And those are really valuable contributions and discoveries that happen in note-taking like this. There are some things like templates or worksheets or activities or methodologies that we share. And what we'll do is like, and we will kind of lock those and make them view only or comment only. But the top, right, we will retitle them to say something like brackets, make a copy, close brackets, and then the name of the document, and try to be very clear.
Oh no, Chad, you your audio cut off, but we could see you gesturing. So yeah, I know for those documents, we do try to make it clear that like this is a template for you to copy and then edit in your own. It's different than don't edit the template itself.
Yes, that.
There you go.
Yeah.
We can hear you again, Chad.
Today's not my day. I've even closed Slack now, so if anyone, just use the chat here if you need me every day.
Okay. Oh man, but that is a good point. Like building trust by having that open document. I have seen it abused a bit, especially in the Etherpad days. Less in the Google Doc days. I think that's one of the big reasons why I moved to Google Docs. It's easier to close off and like kick people off of a doc if they are abusing. So yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, Lucy.
Yeah, that was going to be my question actually, why you stopped using Etherpad, but so that's already a good insight. Were there other things that that led to the change? Because I miss the colors.
I know, yeah, I do miss the colors.
Or, I mean, that's a pretty serious reason to stop using it.
Yeah, and Mozilla does use Etherpad again, but it's it auto deletes every day or so. I can't remember. So it's mostly to be used for meetings like this, but then it doesn't stick around afterwards. Because I think a lot of the abuse we saw was if we just left the Etherpad open afterwards, people would go in and add things. So this way, if we want to make these notes public still, we can just turn off edit access after the meeting, then everyone can still see it. And we can control what links people put in there that we're sharing to the world. So that was an issue with Etherpad. Yeah, and I'd still say use it for like live meetings. I think that's good.
Yeah, if you have concerns about a platform stability like that or something, especially with something with a shared document, copying and pasting and just backing up in another format is cool too.
Yeah. Cool. If there isn't anything else, maybe like any more questions? We'll do one more pause. If you have any more questions, feel free to write them in the doc. And like Chad and I are looking at this, so we'll answer in line afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
But Chad, do you want to talk us through the next section?
Yeah, internet willing. Just take over if I drop out. So we're about to go ahead into breakout rooms. Is this anyone's first time using a breakout room? You could do a show of hands or something. A couple folks are nodding, showing hands. Great. So breakout rooms are kind of like just what they sound like. It's an opportunity to have smaller conversations. It opens kind of smaller rooms within this video meeting on Zoom. And as hosts, you can set up a number of them and kind of assign people to these different rooms. You can randomize it and split it up by like how many people you want to have in each room. It's a pretty neat feature, and it helps enable some small scale conversations and for people to open up in that way as well. Again, they're great for building community, great for building trust, but I think also take a little bit of framing and specificity in when you ask people to use them so they don't become kind of like awkward right off the bat. And I'm hoping that if this is your first experience of the breakout room, it will not be awkward at all today. So veterans of breakout rooms really.
Oh no. We'll see if he comes back. Okay. Chad, hello, we hear you again.
Okay. I was saying, think of these as opportunities to listen, to thank each other, and to share your own experience. This is not a time to judge or to solutioneer or to try to explain to someone what they're doing wrong or what they should be doing instead. This is an affirmative experience where we're trying to learn from each other what's working, what's not working, and what we have tried. I know there are different ways of giving feedback all around the world and in as many different cultures as they are. I'm going to ask everyone here, even if you come from kind of like a very direct feedback place, to use a common denominator of kindness in listening today. You only have to share what you feel comfortable sharing. You can pass on any of these prompts. And if you need help, there'll be a button at the bottom, a help button, that will bring Abby or me into your meeting room and we can help you out. Those are the asks. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. So here are the prompts. We'd like you to say hello. So let people know who you are, where you're from, and what brings you to this call. And then to share a success from this week, to share a challenge from this week, and then to share a strength you have discovered in this new space, either your own strength or strength from your team, your organization, your colleagues, but share something you've discovered that you didn't know you had as a strength before. So you'll introduce yourself, you'll share a success and a challenge, and you'll share a strength you've discovered since we've begun working in this new way. Any questions? We're a little bit over, but we're still going to try to give this the full time because it's important, and we'll maybe trim back on some of the stuff later. Is that all right, Abby?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
I'm sending you'll see a 14-minute countdown for the breakout room, but then you'll have 1 extra minute at the end before we pull you back. So you'll have 15 minutes total.
I'll let you know after each 5-minute period has passed so you can switch speakers if you haven't yet.
Cool. And I'll see you in 15 minutes. And I'll pause. Welcome back, everyone. Yeah, if you have to dash, you're recording this, it's totally fine. But I hope you enjoyed your breakout room. Can I get like a thumbs? It was good, bad, good. Everyone loved it. Nice. So we're going to take some time doing shared insights. So we did cut time for the shared insights. So what I'm going to ask you to do is share one thing, either that you discovered, you helped each other, or knowledges that you can share, and then plus one thing. And then we'll try to summarize after a couple minutes. So it'll give you time to silently do that, or you can verbally, and Chad will take notes. Yes, you're writing in the right spot.
Totally. Yeah, in fact,
everything
on these
is the right
documents,
spot.
Yeah, there's no like wrong spot. We will find it and make sure things get to where they need to be.
Yeah, that's an interesting thread around conflict that's come up a couple times.
Would it be okay with folks if I riff on the conflict thing for a second while we're typing? So I just have it.
Go for it, Chad.
My favorite conflict resolution technique at the moment. I need to go find the book title and put it in here, but it's called deconstructive criticism. I don't know if anyone has ever heard that, but essentially when you notice that some tension's building, two folks are really kind of like disagreeing or coming into conflict, and it is taking on kind of like a personal defensive tone rather than being about necessarily kind of like best ways forward for the team or whatever. If everyone can kind of learn about this and agree to do this and start recognizing those signs, you can use deconstructive criticism like this. Essentially, someone just says like, like pause, and then someone involved or someone facilitating will say something like, wow, it seems like we're really far apart on this one idea or this one issue, and I don't quite understand why yet. Would you share with me why you're thinking that? And then I'll share why I'm thinking this, and then maybe we'll find something in common to go forward from there. So it's a way to put the brakes on personal or defensive escalation, and to explain and be heard. And both parties just kind of like explain and then look for a way forward together rather than trying to like correct each other or persuade each other.
Nice. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, conflict isn't something that came up in the last call, so that's interesting. Nice, and we'll give you a minute to everyone plus one thing. We'll see if any patterns show up. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, and this isn't, it's true. It's not just working at home. It's working at home during a crisis. Yeah. And yeah, there are people who are looking after family. There's a lot going on. And I think that also raises the tension and conflicts often. And I agree, it is impressive how everyone is trying hard to adjust to these new ways. It is really nice to see people coming together like that. Cool, well, thanks everyone for sharing some insights from that. I think this actually segues nicely into some of the resources we have below, especially around like conflict or dealing with interpersonal things online. And Chad, we cannot hear you.
Oh, neat.
Oh, wait, we can hear you. Never mind, you just weren't talking.
I'm gonna try to go fast. So yeah, let's move on to the closing circle. We have a reminder section. You can put any reminders you'd like in here, upcoming events, things to share. We have a share and shout out section. This is a place where you can express gratitude. Really encourage you to think if there are projects, people, colleagues out there who are helping you in this new space, give them some love here. It is not particular to me and Abby, although some of those comments come in from time to time. Just express gratitude where you have it. And then requests for peer assists can be, if you're working on a project and you're looking for collaborators or for partners or just someone to chat with about some of these challenges and successes in addition to meetings like this, you can make those asks there. My reminders would be like, right, the movement building tie-in here is to remember to think about the practices that are welcoming practices in this new space. It's a new space we're all kind of like approaching together, but in different ways. But even after this time passes, your community will always be a new space for the newcomer. And so think about the things that have welcomed you into this new way of working, perhaps in established communities, and think about what you can then offer your newcomers later when we're outside of this moment of crisis and difficulty and uncertainty together and loss. I think that'll be very important and will kind of make this matter. Long term, as much as it is helpful now, the hope is it can continue to help afterwards. We do have a feedback survey. Please, 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 after this call, take 2 to 3 minutes and fill it out. We'd love for everyone to fill it out. We use weekly feedback to help us improve the calls for next week. And since your call 2 this week, we'll use your feedback to improve calls 3 and 4 as well. It's very important to us that we try to address your concerns and make things more welcoming for you in as real time as possible. So that's very important to the quality of these calls. So please let us know there what you think about things that are working, not working, things that might be surprising or things you might change. You can come back to this at any time and add peer requests. You can look for peer assists in the other calls as well. We are going to close out each week as well with a set of weekly resources tied to the topic. So we have all kinds of resources there for online meetings. I'm going to call out in the middle, building virtual rooms for online participation from Training for Change. If you think shared docs are great, but you're over this Google Doc thing, you could try Google Slides. This one gives you a lot of templates for participation there as well. I thought it was pretty interesting and fun. There are 5 ways to stay involved with Mozilla if getting more involved with the community is interesting to you. And you can always continue these conversations on the Slack that we invited you to. And again, just at the bottom, one more link to that survey. It's that important to us to make these calls better for you. With that, Abby, any closing words?
No, that was good. I think for like the conflict piece, do you know if the Life Labs resource talks about that at all?
I'm not sure, right?
Maybe.
But there are a number, I would bet it does.
Yeah.
I think I'm almost certain that it does in terms of like facilitators helping people become aware of kind of what's going on with themselves and others emotionally. And then there are a few other pieces about kind of like how to be an empathetic colleague during this time in this remote setting.
Yeah, and I think that's especially important nowadays. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things for that surface in the shared insights. But huge thanks everyone for participating here and sharing your wisdom with us too. I think it's really helped us, do better online meetings.
Totally. A lot of learning will continue to come from you all. So thank you. Hope to catch you again next week. Or if you want more ideas, join another call this week. But we'll be here and we'll be taking your feedback into account. Thank you all.
Thanks everyone. Stop the recording. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.